Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're asking a pretty big question. Can a single Python library really be the ultimate toolkit? You know, for everything from making videos to encrypting your files? Well, there's a library called YWP that claims to do just that. So, let's get into it.
And just so you know, this video overview comes to you from the INEX team. They're the ones who really dug deep into what makes this library tick.
So, if you've ever coded in Python, you've totally been here, right? You have one simple task, like, say, converting some text into speech, and suddenly you're importing and juggling like a dozen different libraries just to make it work. It's what you might call library fatigue.
Well, that's exactly the problem YWP wants to solve. If you look at its official description, it's all about simplifying the Python language for beginners, but also, and this is key, adding some features that are not found in other libraries. So really, the whole point is to take complicated stuff and make it super simple.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll take a look at everything packed into this all-in-one toolkit. Then, we'll check out the 3 different ways you can actually use it. And to wrap up, we'll figure out if YWP is something you should try.
All right, let's dive right into the good stuff. Honestly, the best way to think about YWP is like a Swiss Army knife for your Python projects. It packs an absolutely insane amount of functionality into just one single library.
Okay, first up on our tour, it's tools for handling media. And we're going to start with audio and speech, which, honestly, are way more powerful than you might expect.
I mean, look at this. The simplicity is just wild. Things like transcribing audio or generating speech from text, these usually mean you're reading documentation for hours and importing specialized libraries. Here, it's just one single function call. You tell it what you want, and YWP just does it. It handles all that messy stuff in the background.
And it's not just audio either. YWP can also create simple videos for you, completely from code. This is awesome if you want to automate content for social media or just whip up a quick visual explainer.
And this is a perfect example of how practical the library is. You can literally just point it at a folder full of images, tell it to add some simple animations, like a fade or a rotate, and boom, out comes a video ready for YouTube, TikTok, whatever you need. All from one function. It's just so efficient.
Okay, so we've covered creating media. Now let's talk about controlling the computer itself. YWP lets you mess with the file system and even control the OS directly.
And this is where things get kind of wild. I mean, sure, you've got your basic stuff like creating a file, but then you have system-level commands like shutting down or restarting the entire machine. You do have to pay attention to the OS support, like restart is a Windows-only thing, but having a shutdown command that works across the board, that's a really nice touch.
All right, what about security? Well, if you need to protect some data, YNP has you covered with an encryption module that is just dead simple.
Right out of the box, the NDecrypt module gives you 4 different methods. So you've got serious industry standard stuff like AES for really sensitive data, but you also have simpler encoding like base64 for when you just need to pass text around safely. And the best part? For any of these, it's pretty much just one line of code.
And just when you think you've seen it all, nope. YWP even has a module that lets you build a simple AI chatbot completely from scratch.
It makes the whole thing unbelievably easy by breaking it down into just 3 steps. First, you create a JSON file to define how the conversation should go. Second, you use the train function to build your AI model. And third, you use process to actually talk to it. It's an amazing way to get into conversational AI without having to climb that massive learning curve you usually face.
So that's a quick tour of what YWP can do. But what's maybe even cooler is how you can use it. The library is built for maximum flexibility, no matter what your workflow looks like.
First up is the method you'd probably expect. You just import it and use it right in your Python code, like any other library.
And as you can see, the code is super clean. You import the specific module you need, here it's audios, and then you just call the function. It's really straightforward, and you could drop this into an existing project in no time.
But what if you don't want to write a whole Python script for a quick task? Well, that brings us to method number 2. YWP lets you run its function straight from your terminal.
You literally just type out the path to the function, hit enter, and the terminal will ask you for all the inputs it needs. Like what text do you want to convert and what should the file name be. No script required. This is absolutely brilliant for those little one-off jobs.
And finally, for anyone out there who just wants to avoid code and the terminal completely, there's a third way to use it. A full-blown graphical user interface, or GUI.
Yep, that's right. After you install YWP, you'll find a program just called YWP in your applications list.
It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. You just click a button to run a function, and if it needs any input, a little terminal window pops up to ask you. This makes everything so accessible, even if you have zero coding experience.
Okay, so this all brings us to the big question. Who is YWP really for? It's pretty clear it's designed for anyone who wants to get things done fast. But there's another really important part of the story here, and that's how actively this thing is being developed.
I mean, just look at this timeline. The project went from its first release to version 10 in a single month, and then to version 15 just a week later. They're already working on version 20. This is not some dead project. It's moving at lightning speed. That means new features and bug fixes are probably showing up all the time.
So this all leaves us with a pretty interesting thought. YWP is part of this bigger trend of high-level abstraction, which is really just a fancy way of saying let's bundle a ton of complicated stuff into one simple package. And that makes me wonder, and I'll leave you with this question to think about, are these massive, powerful everything libraries the real future of making coding accessible to, well, to everyone?